Did the opening weekend deliver what you expected of it?
Yes.
Is Soudal Quick-Step going to win a classic this spring?
Yes.
Did Jonas Vingegaard impress you more in Gran Camino than Tadej Pogacar did in Ruta del Sol?
No.
Are you disappointed by Shari Bossaid's result in Omloop and Nieuwsblad?
No.
I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
Alright guys, I'm back after a week of being sick. And yeah, cycling is back in Belgium as well. How excited are you after the opening weekend?
I think it's wonderful that racing is back in Belgium, on the cobblestones, on the Flemish hills. It's racing we don't see in other parts of the world. It's very specific, and specific riders come to the front, so I love it that the peloton is back.
Yeah, same.
How did you guys experience the race? At home, or did you go to the classics itself?
Well, on Saturday I watched it at home, and on Sunday I was on the road. As a spectator, we went to the start and Berchten-Houten, Holleweg, and then watched the finish. So yeah,
How was
eventful
it
weekend.
to be back at the races?
Wonderful. I really missed it. We did a lot of races last year, and now it's driving with the car from one point to the other. It's sort of a rush. The adrenaline kicks in, and you try to follow the race as good as you can, and then to see the end, it's wonderful.
So now, Yves, you're completely ready to review the two races.
Absolutely.
All right, here's what we're going to do. I've written down 5 conclusions this morning about the opening weekend. It's like 5 sentences we can discuss, 5 bigger themes that I think are the most important to remember after this weekend. The first conclusion is that only extraordinary individuals will be able to break the Jumbo Visma code this spring. What do you guys think of that?
I think it's true, but there are some of those extraordinary individuals in the peloton that are able to do it. I'm talking about Mathieu van der Poel, Pogacar, maybe even De Lie, because he was very strong this weekend. So, yeah, I don't see a team like Soudal Quick-Step really breaking them in any race.
Yeah, I don't think there will be a team as strong as Jumbo, but if you have a Van der Poel or Pogacar who aren't afraid to open up the race pretty soon, how much of those Jumbo Visma guys can follow? Like if Wout follows, Jumbo will not chase in Group 2, so it will be Wout on his own again, and the Jumbo team is a bit out of the picture then, I think.
Let's go back to Saturday itself with Omloop and Nieuwsblad. I think it was with more than 100 kilometers to go that Jumbo Visma really exploded the race. There were some echelons on Langemunte, if I recall correctly. Then it was a group with Tratnik, Van Hooijdonk amongst others that escaped. I had the feeling that Jumbo, they really controlled the race on every single moment. They never let it slip out of their hands. I was impressed by what I saw from the team, and I expected them to be good, but I don't think I expected them to be this good.
I think it was also a case of other teams not wanting to take on the weight of the race. I think Nathan van Hooijdonk was quite clear about that after the race. I had some critique on the other teams for not taking any leadership in the chase, for example, and that they had to do everything. I don't know if that criticism is correct, but yeah, Jumbo was very dominant. They wanted to ride the race a certain way, and they executed it. Tiesj Benoot even said it afterwards. This was the game plan from in the bus, and they executed it to perfection.
I think when we looked at their squad on the start list, I think everybody expected Jumbo to be the strongest team, and the team had to carry the race. I don't understand the criticism from Van Hooijdonk, because if I would be another team, I would act the same. I think I would look at Jumbo, what they are trying to do. But then Jumbo played a strategic masterclass both on Saturday and Sunday. So yeah.
Exactly. They basically did the same on Sunday. I remember us, Yves, in the morning we were talking about what was going to be the plan of different teams. Jumbo, they didn't have the sprinter other teams had at Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne, so yeah, it was pretty obvious they were going to try and rip the race apart. And yeah, what they did on Langemunte, they did exactly the same on Sunday in Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne. They used the wind a little, and yeah, they split the bunch.
Yeah, I think on the Saint Laurent, where the race really exploded, it was like more of a cycling game move they did, like in a Pro Cycling Manager. You put
I
your
think it was
five
Le Bourliquet.
of Le Bourliquet, yeah.
Yeah.
You put just 5 of the men at the front, and then the fourth in the row leaves the gap, and then it's up to the other teams to close that gap. But if it's Benoot and Van Hooijdonk and Wellens and Mohoric, you don't close that gap very easily. So yeah, I think it was really impressive that such a good team with such a name still can surprise the opposition in such big races.
We've talked about the Jumbo team that impressed us, but is there a certain rider of Jumbo as well that impressed you more than the others?
Nathan Van Hooijdonk, I think.
He stepped up his game, right?
He can win races. He was seen as a pure domestique last year and the year before that.
But he had been in the final of Gent-Wevelgem, for example.
He was more seen like a Tim de Klerk, who was pulling a lot of times at the front of the race, helping others. But when you looked at the Kuurne, for example, he could win. Mohoric had a lot of trouble to get into his slipstream at that 3K to go mark. If Mohoric snaps there, Van Hooijdonk wins. So Van Hooijdonk can win a race this year.
Yeah, and Van Hooijdonk has a massive slipstream because he's 192 or something.
Yeah.
So failing to get in that slipstream is quite impressive. And I think he also opened it up on the Bourliquet. So I think we just see him being much more attacking compared to last year's, where he was just like the time trialist who had to just keep the pace up. But I also just want to say Jan Tratnik has been really, compared to last year where he was at Bahrain victorious, just like he's a new rider, kind of like the new Laporte, what we saw from him last year.
It's like he's not breathing. Like we're on 50k to go, and his mouth is shut. He's just looking around, and it's quite nice here at the front of the race. And
pushing those pedals.
Yeah,
it's incredible. We said it to each other as well this weekend, Yves. He might be a guy for Dwars door Vlaanderen when it's a pretty open race, like he did last year, I think, with a big engine, trying solo. Are there any riders of Jumbo Visma that disappointed you a little, or isn't that the case?
I don't think so.
I'm a little bit pointing at. I won't say he disappointed me, but Christophe Laporte, when he was in the chasing group with Mohoric in Omloop at Nieuwsblad, he didn't have to take turns because Van Baarle was out there in front, and then he was De Lie, who wasted his energy for like 2 or 3 hours, still beat him in the sprint. Is that because of De Lie being an extraordinary rider, or is it Laporte not being on his top level yet?
I think, first of all, De Lie is an extraordinary rider. You saw it this weekend, but maybe Saturday you can say you're a bit disappointed by Laporte, but the fact he wins the bunch sprint on Sunday against De Lie, against Jacobsen, proves he's in a very good shape, I think. So I don't think you can. He's quite disappointed.
As I said, I didn't say he disappointed me, but it was a remarkable fact for me.
Yeah, but like Dieter did the analysis on De Lie in Omloop Nieuwsblad, and just that sprint itself, the watts he was pushing were very impressive. They'd be impressive on fresh legs. So seeing them after all of that work that De Lie had to do in that race, yeah, I don't know if Laporte could have beat him that day.
All right, I'm just going to say my second conclusion then. By the end of April, Arnaud De Lie will have won a classic.
A classic.
Milan-San Remo is a classic.
Oh, yeah, he surely can win one, but he needs the luck a bit as well. Lotto Destiny was good this opening weekend, but they missed Kampenaerts, I think, in Omloop het Nieuwsblad. And maybe on Sunday it was Arjen Lievens who was at the front of the bunch when no other team really wanted to chase. He needs to have a bit of luck to get in the front group, and if he's in the front group, he can surely win.
And besides that, I think he can still be a little smarter in a race. He wastes a lot of energy at moments it's not necessary, I think, and he's riding on an incredibly big gear all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
That's his strength, I think.
What?
I think that's his strength.
But at the same moment, it's not always as smart, I think.
Yeah, I agree, but I think we saw an extremely big gear on Le Bourliquet, where he was at the end of at the back of the bunch and struggling to hold on. But I think it's just his way of riding, and I think if he's pushing that big of a gear that he's almost at the end of his powers, but he never rides high cadence neither.
He went up the Muur in the big ring as a fourth rider.
Yeah, but I saw an article saying De Lie needs to get in that big gear because he weighs a little bit more than the others do. So he needs to push extra absolute watts to be able to follow others or even create a gap. But it's still impressive he's on the big ring, of course. But I think at the gears at the back, I'm not really good in that. Where is Dieter when we need him? We're a bit smaller than usual as well, or bigger, more teeth. I don't know how you explain it.
Bram, you already said it a few times in this podcast. De Lie is your man for Milan-San Remo. But I remember Yves saying that he sees him as the winner of Gent-Wevelgem. And I remember the first time he said that I thought, no way, that's never gonna happen. And I've been thinking about it quite a few times now, the past weekend as well. Yeah, who's going to beat him?
That's exactly, that's really true. Before this weekend, it was kind of like, is that not going to be too tough for a race for him? But if you can get second in Omloop, after crashing, after chasing on, after actually like doing a lot of the work to get back to Van Baarle unsuccessfully, eventually, I think you just have to consider him as one of the favorites for Gent-Wevelgem, and maybe even the top favorite. Of course, there's going to be other riders like Wout van Aert and Girmay who have similar skill sets, but he's up there.
All right, on to the next one. Conclusion number 3. Without the best Asgreen or the best Alaphilippe, this will be a poor classics campaign for Soudal Quick-Step.
I agree, I think. But they had some bad luck as well this opening weekend. But we all know Soudal Quick-Step is making the shift towards the Grand Tours, making a team for Remco. They had the bad luck. Asgreen is sick right before Omloop. And then Lampaert said after Omloop that it's not good enough. I think it are the legs that he wanted to mention. Not sure.
Yeah, he said there's still a lot of work to do for himself.
So I think Patrick Lefevere will not be happy, but I think he knows he still has Asgreen and Alaphilippe, who are, when they are at a high level, can perform better than what
They
they
will
did.
need to be at their best level if they want to win a classic, that's for sure.
I expect a lot from Alaphilippe. After what I saw Saturday in the Drome Classic, I think he will be there.
Yeah and no. I think with, for example, Mauro Schmidt, I don't know if he's going to be at the big classics, but we saw him at the UAE Tour pulling really hard for Remco. And a good Casper Pedersen. We can also see some good performances there, but the fact that Lampaert isn't really up to par yet makes me a bit pessimistic about the performance of the team.
What do you think of Florian Sénéchal?
I was quite disappointed by him. Like, he rode on the front quite a bit on Sunday, and he had bad luck on Saturday. But he's shown in the past couple of years that he is possibly an attacking rider that can sort of win these races. I did not see that potential this weekend,
I think he was played out as a domestique.
which is weird.
Yeah, I don't know why, but we saw him on Berchtenhout at the back of the bunch with some jackets underneath his own jersey. It's quite weird because he has a lot more quality than being a domestique, and yeah, but I don't know what happened to him on Saturday neither, to be honest. Did he crash or did he have a mechanical or?
I have no
I think he
idea.
had both.
Hey, bad luck.
All right, we'll see in a few months how that will play out. Conclusion number 4. UAE Team Emirates will be more than just Tadej Pogacar this spring.
Yeah, Tim Wellens is on a very high level. Yes, we're only February still, but
You get the point, Yves.
but the way he's riding, he was the strongest in Kuurne. He dropped everyone on Saint Laurent, I think,
Yep.
even the Jumbos. It was a pity it was still 50k or 55k to go for him, of course, but I think that effort gave him a lot of confidence for the weeks that are coming. And this weekend in general.
A lot of people said that Van Baarle, Benoot, they have the advantage that Wout van Aert is still behind them as their leader, so they might get some more freedom. Can that be the case for Tim Wellens as well?
That's a difficult one, I think. But if it's the case for Van Baarle, Benoot, then it's the case for Wellens as well. But I just have the feeling when Pogacar is at the start, when Van der Poel is at the start, and when Van Aert is at the start, they're gonna start to race really hard early on. That is gonna be very hard to anticipate on or trying to, yeah, come out of the shadow of the leader.
Is Wellens going to be allowed to be an attacking rider if Pogacar is at the start as well?
I think it
That's
would
the
be
question.
stupid if he wouldn't be allowed, to be honest.
But I think he will be. Pogacar likes to race with a lot of freedom, so I think that goes for his teammates as well. No?
Yeah, I think Trentin will be the road captain from Pogacar, so I think Trentin won't get a lot of freedom, but I think Wellens will get the freedom, the free roll to make the race hard and to try his own luck. But of course, if he can help Pogacar at the end of the race, he surely will do, and he will need to do it. But
Exactly.
I think there will be some freedom for Wellens.
It's always difficult to compare different seasons, but do you think this is the best Tim Wellens we've seen?
Well, yeah, but yes, I think his new environment, the new team, the new way of training certainly does him very good. He seems happy. And I don't know, yeah, it's still February. We're joking a lot about it, but I have the feeling now he's not 100% yet and can become even better the upcoming weeks.
And if Yves says so, then it's true.
I'm very impressed by Valens, to be honest. How he raced this weekend, it's very nice to see.
My fifth conclusion is one about the women's races. So maybe if you guys have something to add about the men's races, feel free to go. About the opening weekend.
If someone has Mohoric's Garmin, please give it back.
I think it's talking about Mohoric. It was a big target from him this opening weekend.
Especially Saturday.
Yeah, he wasn't able to win, but I think he showed himself twice. He's at a very good level. We saw him in the descent of the Nieuwe Quaremont, waving around when they were riding like 70 or 80 kilometers per hour. He was just having so much fun.
The guy was like Max Verstappen
I think
in the preparation.
His tires were a little bit cold and he said, let's wave a little bit before we dive into this corner. It was really impressive to see, and at that moment you realize how much he likes to be on his bike. And then you need to know they were already at the front of the race for around 20 or 25 kilometers. But I think he's very impressive, and to be honest, if he's up there on the podium, I don't want to be in his wheel in the descent.
But I was quite surprised he didn't win the sprint for second place on Sunday.
I think you can be surprised after the effort he had to do to chase Van Hooijdonk.
But then that Van Hooijdonk is the one beating him is also weird.
Yeah, but I think I look back though that moment and it was like I really had the feeling Mohoric was gonna crack because he was sitting 10 seconds, like 3 or 4 meters, and he couldn't close it down. And I think at that moment he created his there he didn't win the sprint for second.
I think afterwards he also said that he was expecting a taco attack from the back, so that's why he didn't want to go full gas, because he wanted some reserves for that attack, which eventually didn't come. So it's understandable.
You can't blame Taco though.
No,
the guy was
of course
in the
not.
early breakaway.
Yeah, I think Mohoric was a bit insensitive towards that in his post-race interview, where it was like Taco didn't push as hard as the rest of us did. Of course, he was already in the attack for like 150 kilometers. Give the guy a break.
Fun fact: Taco with his aerodynamic leg warmers. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Nope.
But he used leg warmers with aerodynamic strips or something like that. And he said before the start, even if it's too hot, I'm not gonna take them off.
Definitely worked.
There were some doubts about the UCI regulations because there are some rules about sock length, etc. But there isn't anything in the rule book about aerodynamic leg warmers, so
Not yet.
Not yet.
All right. Conclusion number 5. With the right tactics, Team SD Worx can win every classic this season.
With the right tactics. We are talking about SD Worx here. But yes, in theory, they should be able to with the riders they have. There are, of course, other strong riders. Like, can they win Meg Bastenakelek or
Vollering can.
Yeah, but then you also have Van Vleuten there, who can beat her. It's more of a Walsepale, where it just like at the end on the move, tactics don't matter as much there.
I'm not so sure actually because like Movistar was pretty good as well. And Van Vleuten had some bad luck on Saturday.
That's true.
So their big leader wasn't even at the front of the race, and we still saw Aleni Sierra. So I think Movistar, if they play it out good tactically, can be a
Still,
challenge
I
for
think I'm sure this is the best Lotte Kopecky I've ever seen.
Lotte
Yeah,
And
Kopecky,
I don't
Right.
think she's going to miss out on a lot of wins. She will win big races and more than
Oh.
one. Yeah, I'm sure. Write it down.
It's like you say she'll win it all. It's
No, I don't think she'll win it all.
No.
Like there will be races where like a UAE or a Movistar is also going to be dominant. I think after Strade we can talk about it more. But after one race or two races now, it's too early to tell.
There is no doubt she's really impressive. She lost 3 kilos, I think, and she's pushing the same power numbers. So she's at the best she's ever been. Let's be clear of that. But to win races, you need to have
Who's going
some luck
who's going
as
to
well.
beat her in Flanders without a long range attack like a Marlene Reusser and Alan van Dijk? Those women
Without-
they can bring a long range attack to disturb things. But is Van Vleuten going to drop Kopecky on Paterberg? I don't think so.
If someone,
Persico, perhaps.
Is she going to beat her in the sprint? Absolutely not.
if someone can drop everyone, it's Van Vleuten. On the Paterberg, you can completely crack. Van Vleuten barely cracks or pushes an extra gear. So
Kopecky says she never climbed this good.
I mean,
Kampenaerts
she's
said
not going to
that-
win it all.
Kampenaerts said he would win Omloop and Nieuwsblad as well, so we need to.
Yeah, but if we're not going to pair Kopecky to Victor Kampenaerts, alright? I didn't say she's going to win multiple big races. That's my point.
Okay.
Okay. Interesting.
The last yes or no question, Yves, was:
Oh,
are you
yeah.
disappointed by Shari Bossaid's result in Omloop het Nieuwsblad? Can you repeat the answer?
No.
Still, she was disappointed herself.
Yeah, I know. But
It's only Omloop. There is plenty
it's
more big
Omloop,
races to
it's
come.
But Bram,
February. She missed
she's-
every decisive move. Yes.
She said
Alles,
in an
I-
interview with us, she's going to race less races, but bigger races. That means less opportunities to get a good result. This is one opportunity wasted.
If
will
she
beat-
wins Gent-Wevelgem, then we don't talk about Omloop.
She will beat Lotte
That's true.
Kopecky in Wevelgem. End of discussion.
That's on my paper.
Perfect. Looking forward to see that paper after Wevelgem.
All right. The third yes or no question was: did Jonas Vingegaard impress you more in O Gran Camino than Tadej Pogacar did in Ruta del Sol? So we're going to leave opening weekend behind us. It's now Pogacar versus Vingegaard.
What Pogacar did in Ruta del Sol was exceptional, and the opposition was really strong there. I don't want to say Vingegaard didn't perform really well and he was exceptional either. But I saw an article saying Vingegaard peaked a little for O Gran Camino, so his fitness level peaked to perform really well in O Gran Camino.
And
Meanwhile,
why is that? Or
I don't know.
is there an explanation? You don't know.
No, I just know he peaked and he pushed on that dirt climb 7.45 watts per kilo, and that's near his best watt per kilo level ever. So he's performing almost at the same level as he was at Tour de France. And Pogacar didn't even go on an altitude camp before Ruta del Sol, so he just did his base training in Slovenia or in Spain.
But I don't really get why Vingegaard has to be at a peak level now in February.
I think he wanted to come in the season with a bang as well.
Yeah.
He didn't race a lot after his Tour de France win. He didn't really perform anymore after that Tour de France win. He had a bit of a decompression, I think. And he wanted to start the new season on a high level, I think. But if one team can manage that fitness level, peaking, etc., it's Jumbo Visma.
I think it's also just building up to Paris-Nice.
Exactly.
And Gran Camino is like it's about a week before, so it's just like super compensation the week before. I think it's a clever thing to do. Whether or not it is as impressive as Pogacar, I don't think so. The opposition in for Vingegaard was a lot lower. Yes, he made huge gaps in relatively short time, but Pogacar was doing this against Mafs, against Landa, whereas Vingegaard was doing it against Herrada and Guerrero, which are not on the same level.
First big battle starts on Sunday, Paris-Nice. Excited to see that?
Yeah, I think if you're not excited, you don't love cycling, I think. It are two of the best Grand Tour riders of the moment. I even don't know who's starting besides them. Is Mas starting there, or is he going to Tirreno? Is Carlos Rodriguez going to Tirreno or Paris-Nice? I have no clue, but it's the first real battle between Vingegaard and Pogacar, Bernal is uncertain, but that's another...
What's your small prediction? What are we going to see?
Pogacar is gonna win, but he's not gonna drop Vingegaard, I think. It will be at uphill finishes, sprints, but they are not dropping each other.
At Paris-Nice, sometimes there might be some echelons as well, so...
Is
Yeah.
that one of the only weaknesses left for Pogacar? And
Echelons.
his team? Yeah, and his team.
That's a
I
difficult
don't know
one.
if it's a weakness. I think maybe the race, like the sports director just needs to be a bit more. You need to be at the front in these sections and not get surprised. If he's alone in echelon and not anyone else from his team, I don't think that's necessarily a problem. Because in echelons, you don't get that much support from your team. You just have to ride and hard. And Pogacar can ride hard. So if he's in the first echelon, if he makes that, he's going to be good.
Yeah, I think to end off this Tadej Pogacar versus Vingegaard, some interesting fact about Jonas Kreteur in a Knack article is the first time in history that the first two of the previous Tour de France has won a race in the month February. So it never happened before that place 1 and 2 of the Tour de France won a race in February.
That's not going to happen next year when Godou wins the Tour. No, but these are exceptional times, I think, with those riders. It's something we haven't seen in the past few years.
Yeah, for sure. I think at Paris-Nice, there's going to be team time trial of 32 kilometers. I think Jumbo's going to have a little bit of an advantage there. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting race to see as well. And of course, we have Strade coming up as well, without Wout, sadly.
And without Tadej, but
Yep.
we already know that.
All right, there's one more race to discuss, and Bram, this really is your time to shine. It's Remco time.
Well, yeah, Remco won GC at the UAE Tour. He didn't win a stage. He did lose some time to Adam Yates on Jebel Hafid. That being said, it was 40 degrees, and it was the fastest ascent up Jebel Hafid ever.
Should
Yeah,
we make a
it's-
conclusion about that? About the fact that he's been dropped.
Yeah, it wasn't a big target of him, so he can
Exactly.
lose it.
But he didn't want to lose it, of course. No, I think he's building up to the Giro, and we'll see him at his full strength there. I don't think he's making the same build up as a Pogacar or a Vingegaard towards his Grand Tour. I think he's taking it a bit more slowly, a bit more traditionally, perhaps. I think he's just doing it the old-fashioned way.
And yet again, Remco won a stage race.
Yeah, his third UCI World Tour stage race. Yeah, I mean, it's not that surprising after Pogacar dropped it from his calendar. That did
No,
make Remco the
it's
big
not, but
favorite.
still, you gotta do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's the world champion. There's always going to be pressure on him. He lives up to it. It's great.
Soudal wasn't good at the opening weekend, but they were pretty strong in UAE.
Yeah,
This sort of goes to show where their priorities are heading a bit towards the future, towards their stage races with Remco. Of course, they had Merlier there as well, who was really strong. He doesn't like hot temperatures, but he performed in them really well.
I think we were talking about Soudal Quick-Step not being good in the Belgian opening weekend, but they took 3 victories on Saturday and Sunday with Alaphilippe in the Fona-Desch Classic, Tim Merlier the penultimate stage in UAE Tour, and Remco Evenepoel the general classification and the World Tour, UAE World Tour. There was never a team that successful in the Belgian opening weekend on every terrain as what Soudal Quick-Step did this weekend. So they didn't perform in Belgium, but they did perform overall very well.
Yeah, I find it really hard to predict what's going to happen with them in the big classics with Alaphilippe there. I don't know what to expect, to be honest.
I think, like we already mentioned, they are making the switch towards the general classification, the Grand Tours. Patrick Lefevre knows it himself that the future is for Remco Evenepoel, that he has a diamond in his team. They are not making their classic squad stronger neither with some transfers. Yeah, they took in Casper Pedersen, but it's more as a lead out for Jacobsen, I think, on the long term when Morkov retires. They bought Jan Hirt, so that's already one from the mountain train, and they're gonna buy climbers and no classic guys. So I think they are shifting, and I'm looking forward to see what's gonna happen with an Asgreen, a Lampard, all those guys who are performing less. Yeah, I don't know.
Alright, time to end this episode. We're going to do that by doing 2 rounds. First round, who's going to win Strade Bianche for men?
Mathieu van der Poel.
Tiesj Benoot.
Tom Pidcock. Who's going to win Strade Bianche women?
Cecilie Petruppel-Truij.
Lotte Kopecky.
There we go, Bram. Lotte Kopecky.
She won it last year. It wouldn't be that big of a surprise.
All right. Thanks, guys, for your time. I think we see each other next week for the Strade Bianche review. Have a good time and enjoy the races.
Yeah.
Same for you. See you later. See you next week.
See you next week.
Bye-bye.
I've got the spots, the sickness. There's be twins in my brain.